Thank you, Madam Chair, and Ranking Member Higgins for allowing me to join the subcommittee today. The San Diego sector has seen tens of thousands of migrants, including unaccompanied children, family units, and single adults arrive at our border since October. The city, the county of San Diego, the state of California, and many local organizations and volunteers have stepped in to take care of the migrants entering the community. I'm certainly grateful for their dedication and hard work. And the relationship between this CBP and the armed services is not new in San Diego, as you well know. Particularly, I visited with Border Patrol officers most recently in March and saw how the Coast Guard supports border security operations in a pretty seamless way. The Coast Guard Medical Corps has been asked to assess CBP's medical programs, which is critical to make sure that the migrants are being taken care of, especially after these treacherous journeys. I think the concern we have is that the federal government has relied on its military forces to enhance enforcement outside of the normal relationship, and that maybe we're deploying the military in places where that's really not the appropriate personnel. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. Mr. Celeste, the DOD is currently reviewing, I understand, the request to house an additional 1,400 unaccompanied children. Is that correct?
Sir, that's actually been approved. Okay. We're going to house those children at Fort Sill.
Great.
And they should start being housed there sometime mid-July, sir.
So tell me how you assign the duties. How does the department work with CBP or HHS to set up and maintain the facilities, and who staffs them and who oversees it?
So, sir, HHS is responsible for the children, as you point out, and we work very closely with them. They come to us and ask that we identify facilities and potentially land to house the children. They would establish soft-sided facilities if they were going to use the land. What we've done is that they go out and they do a site assessment at a military facility like they did at Fort Sill. They look at the facilities that are available to them to house the children. They make an assessment based on the location and their ability to provide the services that are needed. DOD does not provide any services. We just provide the facility. They provide the care to the children, and that's the way they're done.
I wanted to say that when I visited the border in March, it was made very clear to us that the DOD understands its role. They were providing logistic support and reconnaissance, and I guess that's within their scope of their expertise. But the other thing we heard, Chief Provost, was that there were authorized positions in CBP that you couldn't fill. So I understand that there must be some obstacles to getting people hired. Can you tell me what those are?
Well, certainly there's a lot of competition in the law enforcement world in general right now when it comes to hiring. That being said, last year was the first year we made progress. We hired more people than we lost, and we are on track to do that again this year. But I certainly need many, many more resources. We have expanded our recruitment program. We are seeing more individuals come into the pipeline, as we would call it. My academy is currently full, which is a good sign. First time it's been in a few years. All of the classes are full through the fiscal year. So I am happy to see those kinds of numbers coming in. But it does take time to hire for federal law enforcement, and particularly into CBP through the process. We have expedited the process, the hiring process, and taken several steps in that area as well.
It'd be my preference, I suspect that most of my colleagues would like to see CBP doing the CBP jobs and for you to hire up so that the military could go back to more characteristically military functions rather than border staffing. But the other side of that is this processing coordinator, which is a new role too for CBP. You may have touched on this with Ms. Torres-Small, but are the qualifications going to be different from typical agents for that kind of position?
It is a lesser qualification, and Ms. Torres-Small did ask about it. We are in the process of finalizing exactly what that position will be like, the training that is involved, but the duties will be to be able, the position is there so that I can put my Border Patrol agents back doing their main job.
And what would be the expectation about the processing coordinator developing relationships with local organizations that are providing these kinds of humanitarian services?
I cannot say at this time in relation to working with them. I know, we work very closely with several non-governmental organizations across the southwest border.
And I've run out of time, but I just ask you to look at that because a lot of people are on the ground responding to the Trump administration's change of policy back in October. I think we can learn a lot from each other, and I look forward to that. I yield back. Thank you, Madam Chair.